What's going on, YouTube? Good morning. It is 10:50 a.m. on Saturday, July 25th, and I hope everybody had a fantastical week. It's Futures Brizio here. As always, most important thing before we get going is for you to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and any questions or comments, leave them down below. So it's Saturday morning trader talk. No set agenda here. I'm going to go through a few charts, talk about last couple of days of prices. I did not record a video yesterday. I do have several trades open right now in Forex, and I did take one kind of nice, a nice trade in futures yesterday. Made about, I don't know, like $600 or something on it. So in my funded account. And I'll show you that. That was the only trade I took. So, but I didn't record a video yesterday. I was really busy doing other stuff. I know I say that a lot, but I really do have a lot of other things going on. So it's just for me to find a half an hour to record a video is gets a little tough. And then a lot of times by the time I have time to do it, it's after the market hours, markets closed. And I don't feel like that's as useful to people such as doing it now. But then again, it's the weekend. Sometimes that's a good time to look at the charts when everything's closed, nothing's moving. You don't have to make any decisions. And so it's a good time just to kind of hang out. So if you happen to join the live stream, because I'm not really looking at the chat or anything, make sure you say hello and make sure you like the video. And if you're seeing it afterwards on my channel under the live section, obviously you can go ahead and watch it then. Will still be relevant, obviously. All right. So I think the first thing I'll do is just talk about some of my open trades. And because it's kind of variable right now. I mean, overall, I'm in profit about $600 net on all of them. But at one point, I was up about 1,200, and then things kind of turned against me a little bit. But I did not close any of them because I still feel like, that's just normal market movement. The market's going to go up and down, and you're going to have retracements, and you're going to go from being at the peak of the profit on a particular trade to pulling back. But I still think for the most part, they're valid. So we're going to take a look at all of them and we'll go from there. So the first one we'll look at is the New Zealand Canadian. So I went short on this one. Now, this one violates, I guess, violates a little bit of my rule. If you watch my last one or two videos, I was talking about the type of Forex trades that I prefer to take using these range charts. And again, I'm using the 500 range. You can see right here, 500 ranges. That's what these are. I'm not going to rehash all that. These are range candles. They're a little bit different. They're price-based, not time-based. But I do like them. I feel like they're better in terms of just showing you market structure, and I can find really good entry points, especially and areas to jump into trends or even on reversals. And my favorite thing is something like this, where you get at least a 3 candle box, or I can put it like a 3 candle box around this. And then when it breaks, that's my entry when that zone breaks. And I can either take it right off the 500, which would be at the close of this candle, or I could go down to like a 250 range and find maybe a little bit more fine-tuned entry, so I don't have to wait for the close of this candle. As long as I get a nice clean break below here, this is an example of one that would be a great trade. And you can see it's screamed to the downside. And remember, these are 50 pip candles because it's a 500 range chart. And so 500 ranges is 50 pips in Forex. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 200 pip move down. Now, you'd have to see how long this took because, again, these are not based on time. So this was from Thursday, June 18th, and this low was put in on June 24th. So this took 6 days, but, it was 200 pips. And this is the New Zealand Canadian, which does not move a lot of pips. This probably only has an average range every day of maybe 50 pips the entire day. I don't know. I'd have to look, but it's not a big mover. So that's actually pretty good. I mean, that's pretty much, average daily move every day. Okay. But on this one, Now, if you looked at this, here's this right here. You can see these two yellow lines. This is a nice sideways move, but when this broke out, I was not going to take this long anyways, because if you look to the right, we've got multiple hits on this zone and prices reacted off of every time. So this would not be a good use of a long position, in my opinion, because of the reaction point. And so rather than take a long, I actually on this candle, when it came back down to the zone. Now, sometimes what'll happen is, it'll hit these reaction areas, it'll come back, retest, and then go. Because at some point you figure it will break this area. So when it came back into the zone, then I started watching again. And then when it broke below, I said, okay, well, maybe this is our reversal point and I'm gonna take a short. So I did take a short in here, and now you can see it's moved against me. It's come back to the range. Now, this candle was on Thursday. You can see down at the bottom, Thursday the 23rd. This candle painted at about 8:30 in the morning. So, beginning of the New York session, we rallied up and we hit this. The what would used to be support inside this zone is now being resistance, and it's stuck, and it did not move beyond that. You can see all day yesterday, or really all day Thursday and all day yesterday and Friday, no other candles painted in here, which means there was no movement beyond 50 pips. So within, that the range within one trading day, right? So, um, so it didn't paint. So it's been stuck here, and so I'm in pretty significant drawdown on this trade. Um, but I'm gonna hold it for now. I have my stop loss. Actually, it was up here. I've moved it now down just above this candle that broke out of the range. I mean, I'm not gonna hold it all the way back up here. If it gets anywhere closer to here, then it's either gonna enter into a range or it's gonna break higher. So my stop is sitting like right about, around this 80 82 zone or 81.90, I think. And that's it. So I'm hoping that this is a breakout and then retest and then we roll over. But it doesn't exactly meet my criteria in terms of my preferred type of breakout. And so, but once in a while I will go out on a limb on these type of trades. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll kick myself and remind myself to stick within my rules and understand that even after as long as I've been trading, I still will take trades sometimes. But, I don't think most people could look at this and say that's necessarily a bad trade. My entry might be late, but um, I wanted to make sure it cleared this zone that we just didn't come back here, retest this breakout to the upside and then go higher. I wanted to see it clear these lows, which it did right here. So, and like I said, this is probably just a retest, and you will often get that type of retest on a breakout, right? So a lot of times breakouts will go back and retest. So if you enter on the breakout candle, there is a high probability you will get into drawdown because you're going to get that initial break, and then they're going to retest it, the breakout area, and try to stop people out or scare people into not trade into not holding their position, and that's fine. So, you got to remember that. And so I'm willing to live with some drawdown and hoping that this eventually rolls and continues down. Okay. So that's New Zealand Canadian. I don't want to spend too much time on any one. We'll go to the next one, which is dollar Swiss, which is sitting in a very small profit. Um, and I'm long in this. And again, you can see the breakout right here. We had this sideways zone. I think if you go back and see my last couple of videos, I showed this zone. I've been watching this, and we got this breakout candle. And so I'm going long. Now, if we zoom out a little bit, there are some swing areas here that price might react off of. This is right now, it's sitting basically back at this one that was way back here in July of last year. I don't know how much that really means. I mean, this was a year ago, literally, July of 2025, or actually August 1st on this high. So does that really mean anything now? Probably not. I mean, look at all these old highs here. So price might react because maybe some traders are watching this zone, as just like a take profit area, and maybe they're not necessarily trying to sell off of here. So I am hoping that this goes higher, and if it does start to move higher, my target really would probably be way up here, ideally towards this major. This is a major swing high up here, not all these little ones on the way down, but more like this one. So it's in a little bit of profit. It's up about $80 right now. It's one lot. And my New Zealand Canadian, by the way, is down about 300 right now. So that one's, like that one hurts right now. But like I said, I'm hopeful that it will eventually turn back. Okay, so we'll move on to Aussie New Zealand. Now, this is another one that I had been watching. I talked about on a couple of videos, and we'll zoom in a little bit here. And this was the box I had drawn, and this is not in hindsight. If you go back again, watch probably my last couple of review videos where I was talking about setups I was watching. This is one right here. We had this very well defined box right here where the price is just moving inside of here, right? Just completely range bound, very obvious and clean. And I'd like to see again at least three candles, but this one was one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I went long on the breakout here, and I'm holding this, and I'm just going to hold this because I'm going to look to trade this probably back up towards these highs around the 122 122 area is a good number. 122, 122.2, somewhere up in here, right? So, and eventually I'm probably going to move my stop loss up to at least break even, maybe into a little profit. But I wanted to give it a little breathing room in case it came back to retest the breakout area. And sometimes they don't. I mentioned that with the New Zealand Kiwi, New Zealand Canadian. Sometimes they don't come back, and then if you're waiting for that, sometimes it never happens, and then you miss the trade. So there's always that decision you have to make about whether you're going to wait for a retest and then enter then, or do you just get in and accept the fact that you might go into drawdown if it does go back and retest the breakout area. But again, that's a decision as a trader you have to make. So, all right, so that's New Zealand Kiwi. So I was happy to see that one play out, and hopefully that keeps going. And then the one that's in the biggest profit right now is the pound US dollar short. And of course, I'm long on the US dollar Swiss, so I'm hoping that that's dollar strength and that continues. So if we look at pound US dollar, we did pull back a little bit. We were running short here. Okay, we had this one candle that pulled back, and we had this pullback on Thursday, and then it did not paint another one on Friday. It just like did nothing. So we basically have this was at 11:20 a.m. Thursday morning. So the rest of Thursday and all of yesterday, we really didn't do anything. Okay. And so, which also makes me feel a little bit better about the short position because, again, a lot of times if it's going to be a reversal type thing, you're going to get green, 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 especially on a pair like the pound US dollar, which can move a lot. You get multiple strong green candles pushing up. That usually shows you there's a lot of like big money buying. These one candle pullbacks are not so big of a deal. I mean, yeah, it's a pullback, but we had that here, and then another downtrend came. I don't really see any reason why this would have reacted off of this zone other than a pullback. Yes, we can look to the right. We can see this old area of support. Back in, let's see, this was June 5th, and then this was May 17th, these old lows to the left. We had this little area here. So you can say, well, yeah, the reacting, there's a bunch of buyers sitting at this 133 area or so. I don't know. So, but either way, I'm, my plan is to hold this, and hopefully we get a continuation down, and my target will be further down here. Maybe not at this extreme low, but maybe somewhere back here around the 132 zone would be pretty nice down here at 132. All right, so that's the nicest one I got on right now, and hopefully this is just a little pullback. But even with that, it's up about over $500 right now on this trade from where I got in. All right, and then we're back to another one that's in drawdown, which is US Canadian, is down about $80. And I'll show you my those open trades in a second. I just got to switch screens. The way the StreamYard works, it's a little bit clunky to change screens because you're sharing a tab and not your screen. So, so dollar Canadian. So, this one, I'm long because again, we're talking about dollar strength, and I was down quite a bit because I had gotten in. Let's see, where did I get in? Let me look at this. I entered at 141 I entered. So where's 141? Yeah, I entered. Yeah, okay. This is the candle I entered, on, which makes sense. A little three candle pattern. I entered here long, and you can see it went way down. And I was in drawdown all this time now. It looks like it's trying to start building a move higher. We've got another little three candle pattern sitting here, right? This is another little three candle pattern. Um, Extend this up a little bit. So let's see what this does, and hopefully we get a break above here. You know, I can even throw an alert. I mean, I probably wouldn't take another trade. I'm already in this, but I'd feel better if I get triggered on this alert to know that it's trying to break higher. So that's this one, and we're just basically, you know, we had a strong move up, we had a little tracement, you know, and I didn't feel like this really violated the uptrend. This is just a deep pullback. Now the issue with this one being in drawdown is because the Canadian dollar has had a lot of strength because oil prices have gone back up because of the conflict in Iran. So that's driven oil prices back up, which strengthens the Canadian dollar because oil is still their number one export. And so whenever oil prices spike, the CAD is going to strengthen at least temporarily. And so even though the dollar is strong, you can see we kind of started moving more side. You know, we got that initial strength of the CAD to push this down. And now, you know, it's kind of like neutralized a little bit. And so now we're kind of range bound. So this thing may just kind of move sideways for a while. It might, you know, I'm not going to close it right now, but because I'm still hoping that we can start to move higher. But that's why I had this initial drawdown because of the Canadian dollar strength, not because of US dollar weakness. We kind of had a little push pull going on with that. All right. And then last is New Zealand yen. This one's been a little frustrating. It's in profit right now, but not by much. Um, and again, this one is basically running off of not my normal box type thing. But again, this is another sell off of a major high. You can see this area here in general has had a couple of points where prices reacted off of. And this one, I'm probably going to close this one on Sunday once the market opens. I'm hoping that it doesn't just gap higher and really screw me because I'm in profit right now, but not much. But I don't like the looks of this. So unless we gap lower and clear this low here, this is probably one I will close. Even though it was a reaction off the, you know, it took the reversal off here. I was hoping it would go a little bit deeper, even if it didn't ultimately technically reverse trend. I was hoping to get a push further down, maybe back towards here. But, you know, maybe it will. You know, I don't know. But this green candle that formed on Thursday, this was during the London session Thursday, and then it really hasn't done anything else since then. So I'm hoping this eventually breaks and we take out this low and we do continue down, in which case I'll hold it. But if it looks like we're going to start, we paint another green candle, I'm going to exit it. At that point, it'll probably be in loss. But I probably will exit it at that point. So that's why I took that one. Again, doesn't exactly meet my criteria, but how I like to trade this now, but that's what it is. So okay. So let's see here if I can figure out how to do this. What I wanted to do is show you the other screen. I'm gonna remove this one. You guys get to see my face for a sec. I don't know. I can't. All right, whatever. I'm not going to sit here and delay the video. But I went over it. Those are my open trades right now. Okay. Going over to futures. So we need to change the range to 20. Wow, that's bizarre looking. I didn't even see that. What is that? Oh, that's the New Zealand yen. Still on Forex there. Okay, and we need to turn our moving averages back on. And what is the one that I took? So yeah, I think it was soybeans. Yes. Yes, it was soybeans. So this is the one trade I took on Friday. You can see we had this really sweet pullback right into the 34 moving average. Painted this one green candle. This actually would have been the entry right here, but I took it on the next one. And then you can see my TP was sitting back at the old highs, which it hit. It did pull back, and then it actually ended up retesting those highs later in the day. This was at around 1 p.m. yesterday, so like an hour before the market closed. It did go back up and retest the high, but I would have squeezed a tiny bit more out of it, but not much. So I was happy with that. So that was the only trade I took in futures yesterday, was right there. And this is like about this is only one contract, as you can see, and it was like a $600 um, profit. So that was pretty nice. Just looking at these other ones, this is wheat. We may be starting to turn and generating some new bear trends here. Wheat did go down and take out this old support area here, and now we're testing. So if we hold these moving averages are starting to clearly bend down. So if we come up here and kind of like can retest this area and start to move lower, I might start thinking about shorting some of these, but I've been very hesitant to do that because we've been moving very strong for quite a while, and these things can have very deep pullbacks. But this one now obviously is really, I mean, look at all these red candles. Again, there's only a 20 range chart, so it's not as huge as it looks because it doesn't take much to generate one of these red candles at this level. But the fact that it came down here and broke this support, now this could just be like a little liquidity sweep, and then we turn and break higher again. But the moving averages are clearly pointing down now. They're not flat. They're not pointing up, and they're not even flat. They are clearly pointing down. And again, I'm not a moving average trader by design, but it does work pretty well with these grain futures. So I'm not saying I'm bearish yet, but I will be watching these next week for potential, pullbacks into these moving averages, and then seeing if they hold, and if so, then considering short positions. Okay, and that's in wheat. Uh, Corn obviously is still very bullish. There actually was a trade here on Friday, yesterday morning, which I did not take. We didn't really get as much of a pullback towards the moving average as I like. You can see normally this pulls back into the moving averages pretty nicely, but it doesn't always. Like if you look at this old uptrend or downtrend, you can see it missed it here, missed it here. So, some of them, you can't always just use the same moving averages for every asset. And this is probably an example where, you know, maybe this red one on here needs to be a little bit shorter. Um, but I also don't want to like jump in too early. And if you're going by that and then it pulls back into a shorter one, you think, okay, there's the trade. And then it just keeps going and you end up either being stopped out or in a lot of drawdown. So I almost would rather just, miss a trade and wait for it for a deeper pullback into the moving average before I take it. But we'll see. All right. We talked about soybeans. Here's soybean meal. I have no interest in trading this. We're just completely range bound here. Um, and so I have not taken a trade in soybean meal in a while. I just don't like all this sideways price action. Clearly, this, 330, 336, 337 price is kind of a cap right now for the big money. So they don't really want prices going any higher right now. So I've just stayed away from that one. And then soybean oil is a lot like wheat, right? It looks like we've definitely turned the corner down. I've been avoiding it because, again, this can have very substantial pullbacks before it goes higher. If you just look at this, right? Moving averages are pointing down. Now, certainly you could have traded this, but overall, this thing did eventually turn and go back up and continued the uptrend. It's just that it puts in these huge pullbacks, and certainly you can trade it. But this actually would have been a nice entry. Yesterday, I did not take it. I don't even know if I looked at this chart yesterday, to be honest. But this would have been a nice trade. And so, I probably would be okay with looking at short positions on pullbacks now, at least back down towards these old lows here. And we'll see what happens. This obviously is a key market structure somewhere in here. So, but price is still quite a ways from there. I mean, this is probably days of price action for it to get back down here, or at least a few days, anyways, depending how aggressively it moves. And so, in the meantime, potentially looking for longs to trade back down into these lows here. I mean, excuse me, shorts. So overall, leaning bearish on wheat, leaning bearish on soybean oil, neutral on soy meal, still bullish on pullbacks on soybeans for now, and corn still bullish. So we got kind of a split story here on the grain futures. It is summertime; they can be very volatile just because of not only supply and demand, but just weather. Crops, and what they're expecting for yields and all that. It's really this time of year is really when they can be the most volatile. So, and I've certainly have taken my share of losses on them, but overall, I'm positive on it, and I think I was up about $800 on the week on these grain trades, which, considering I had a couple of big losses, still being up $800 on the week, I was happy with that. But I think I'm gonna um, consider start increasing my risk and just being a little bit more selective, but taking more than one contract, maybe taking two contracts instead of one. But again, I trade this on a funded account, so you do have to be careful, right? I don't want to get into a big drawdown situation and have to try to dig myself out. So, when you're trading prop firm accounts, slow and steady, the turtle, not the hare, is kind of the better way to go, because it's all fine and dandy if you hit a home run. But if you're wrong and you overexposed yourself, you're gonna either blow your account or you're gonna get yourself into such a deep hole that you're gonna spend weeks trying to get out of it on something that you did in one day because you wanted to knock it out of the park. So I rather just, take these one contract trades and, just day trade them and just slow, steady progress. And, that's so far what I've been doing. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So yeah, that's grains. That's kind of a look at that. And yeah. Um, right. Yeah. So yeah, wheat is definitely looking more bearish. Again, now that we've taken out this old market structure, these lows here. But again, this could just be a liquidity sweep. We didn't go way below it. Look at the extreme low on that swing. It's right there on that little wick. And then we had one red candle break there, and now we've pulled back. So is this just a liquidity sweep down here and we're going to start moving back higher? I don't know. If we clear these moving averages and we start putting in again higher lows and higher highs and start moving up, then yeah, this probably will turn out to just be a big sharp correction. But it is very bearish. I mean, it's not like this where it kind of moved sideways and then went higher, where the moving average is kind of flattened out. And clearly there was no, like, there was a big push pull going on in here. Um, but as opposed to this, which is just straight down and smashed through the support and then, trying to retrace. So I'm saying I'm leaning bearish, but it doesn't mean I'm bearish, right? I want to see, that first initial move and break sometimes is just a liquidity sweep and then the uptrend will continue. But, that first move down to say, okay, let that play out, wait for the retracement and then see what it does. Does it come up here and roll back over and start moving lower, then you've kind of got something. Now you've kind of confirmed the downtrend. But this first initial move down, there's no entry. I mean, I had no place to enter here anyways, just based on my system. So I wouldn't have caught any of this either way. So now I'm just going to watch it and see what it does going forward. So it's the same thing with that and soybean oil. I think actually kind of already confirmed. But again, soybean oil, can have these very extended corrective periods too, which this could be, although this looks more bearish to me than this did. And so, at least my initial targets on these would, if I was going to take a short here, which I didn't, but if I wait for another pullback, I'd be looking for something down back towards these lows around the 71 area. And then we'll see if we break those. But in the short term, I think it's bullish as long as we keep holding market structure, which for now, here's our new market structure right here to the which would have to be breached to continue the uptrend. If not, then we maintain at least a short-term bearish bias on this. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. And I also have just last thing I've thought about with grains about kind of instituting more of like what I do with futures. I mean, with Forex, as far as using the higher um, ranges and looking for those boxed areas again. The thing is with futures, because you're dealing with contract lengths, I don't find using the 500 is really worthwhile. If I do 500, this is what my chart looks like, and there's just not enough here for me to like really be comfortable with. So if I make it like 200, then it's a little better, and then you do get some little boxes like this. I don't find though in back testing it. I mean, there is one right here, right? There's this one right here, and then it broke lower, and this went on for it was Tuesday the 16th through Wednesday. So it went on for a day, 24 hours, 36 hours. It went down, but you don't get quite as many of these. Um, and sometimes you get like false ones, but that's going to happen sometimes. Like you had this one here, 4 candle pattern, 1 candle breakout, and then it went back. Now, ultimately, it did go up, but let's be real, you would have been either closed or stopped out on this trade. Either, on this pullback, you would have closed it just freaking out that we were going to go lower, a failed higher high right here, and then a big wick, which even if you withstood this, you probably would have a stop loss sitting below here and you got knocked out right here. Ultimately, this would have gone higher. So if you had worked through the drawdown, this would have been a fantastic trade. So I've thought about doing that with futures just to not have to be so glued day trading these things. I'm kind of mixed on it right now. The day trades that I showed you using the moving averages have worked out pretty decent. I mean, I'm doing fine on them. Um, but this would slow down my trading and not give me as many entries, but again, be potentially able to hold them for a longer period. But you don't get as many clean ones like you do in Forex. If you just look at this overall, like, yeah, again, there's this kind of one here, you got this one here, one over here. But looking back at a lot of this old price history, I don't see there aren't a lot of real clean ones that jump out on me. And it's probably just the nature of how these things trade that you just don't see a lot of that. So I'm not really too crazy about doing that. Um, but uh, it might be something, just another way to look at the chart. So if there's nothing really setting up on a day trade basis, I can always jump to this 200 and just see, bigger picture. Is there a consolidation zone that's setting up? So like, if I was on a day chart, if I had been looking here and okay, well, there's nothing really here to do on any of these days. I go out to 200 and say, okay, there's no trade right now, but it's forming one of these consolidation zones. I'm going to just watch it and trade it off of this range chart instead of the shorter one and wait for the breakout. So there is a way that you might be able to to look at it and um, on both sides and just see which way you might be getting a setup. So all right, so yeah, so I guess I'll leave it there, guys. Um, Hope it was helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them down below. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. This will be posted on the channel under live. So if you're checking it out later, make sure you leave a comment and like the video. All right, guys, have a great weekend. I'll be back next week. I am traveling again next week. I know I seem to say that a lot, but there's just a lot of stuff going on. So I'll be around on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, I'm heading out. So I probably will not be recording anything after Tuesday. I will be watching the charts. I probably won't be doing much in terms of trading on Thursday. I'll be pretty tied up all day Thursday. So I don't suspect, I certainly probably won't be taking any futures trades on Thursday, maybe Forex trades if there's anything that sets up during the overnight or early morning. But either way, there'll be no videos probably from Wednesday through the rest of the week next week. But I'll be around and, certainly checking the YouTube channel. So if anything comes up or questions, if you want to, leave them, just let me know and I will check it out. All right. And maybe if I do take anything, maybe I'll post it in the post section of my channel. There's that tab when you go onto someone's channel where it says posts, and those are basically just static posts. It's not a video. And I can, drop some screenshots in there if I take anything new. All right. So have a great weekend, guys. Talk to you next week. Thanks.